This program is a paid commercial announcement and in no way represents the views of WPHT or its management.
Jake Media Partners presents The Adam Malamut Show. Real people, real perspectives, real opinion. Presented by the law offices of Adam Malamut and Associates. Powered by InjuredWorkers.com and driven by Piazza Premium Automobiles. Now, live from the Malamut and Associate Law Studios, The Adam Malamut Show. Hosted by Adam Malamut.
And we begin our Sunday night here, and we welcome everyone in from the Delaware Valley to the Adam Malamut Show as we come to you on Talk Radio 1210 WPHT, this being the first Sunday in the month of August. Eagles camp now underway in South Philadelphia, and the final month of the summer of 2019, Adam, is upon us. Man, it was a quick, fast 3 months going back to the beginning of summer when it all broke on Memorial Day.
So we're going to start the show with a buzzkill. You're going to start telling everybody how short our summer's been.
It's been so fast, right?
Wow. So, Krause, it's amazing. The month of August is an amazing month. We have training camp, like you pointed out. We've got some exciting baseball heating up. Hopefully our Phillies start to pick it up a little bit more. This past week, the trade deadline hit, and unfortunately, we didn't make the moves that we had hoped to make as fans. But we can't really complain because we got Bryce, who I still have confidence in. Krause, we're going to talk tonight about living your best life. People you use that phrase, they throw it around, and we're going to get an idea as to what that really means today. What are your dreams? What are your goals? What do people hope to achieve? How do you make every day your best day? Jarek Robbins, who I follow on social media, he's Tony Robbins' son. He doesn't necessarily want to be known just for that, but he has a podcast, and this is not a paid endorsement, but I'd encourage folks to listen to his podcast, learn it, live it, give it. He talks about this concept. My wife, who after our last show together, I'd be remiss if I didn't mention her, especially after you threw me under the bus a couple times.
Not intentionally, though, right?
Yeah, of course. We'll stick with that. Her tagline in her email is, "Make tomorrow so awesome, yesterday gets jealous." And it's that kind of vibe that we want to start promoting, right? It's that kind of vibe that, especially now where our country more than ever needs that kind of positivity. There's social issues that are not being addressed, that need to be addressed. There's financial uncertainty. The market this past week had a huge dip on Wednesday. There's a lot of uncertainty, and taking a negative attitude into it is not going to help us get anywhere. So I'm a huge believer in the power of positivity, and without me getting too philosophical, I do believe that, people need to look at how they can live their best life. The lottery's not the answer. If you're gambling on living your best life on $2 tickets, I'm pretty sure you're going to fail. Wish lists, they don't fulfill themselves. So you can make a list, but you still have to take action on that. Making plans still requires execution, and time is precious, but how much are we really taking advantage of that? And how much are we really treating time like it's precious? So that being said, I'm very excited for this show. It's a little bit different than our other shows. I've got a dear friend who I've gotten to know pretty well over the past year, who lives this life, exudes this life, and it's infectious. When you have somebody that carries that kind of positivity and that kind of energy, it makes everybody around them better. So that being said, today's guest is an actor, a businessman, an amazing father. I've had an opportunity to watch him with his son, a master motivator. He probably would not have started the show talking about how the summer's already gone. But he's a master motivator, a fitness enthusiast, and a coach. Today's guest is David Duzenski. David, welcome to the show.
Thank you, Adam, very much. Thank you for having me, and thank you for such a warm introduction there. That was very nice. Thank you.
Oh, it's sincere. Well earned.
Thank you.
So, Dave, the listening audience probably is not aware, but a lot of them probably know who you are. And this is a time where you don't have to be bashful about talking about your accolades. But where might they have seen you?
Possibly a couple different things over the years. But most notably, probably maybe a guest starring spot on ER. Which was pretty cool. Quite a few years ago.
There were a couple episodes of that show, right? They made a couple episodes.
They made a couple of that. But that most notably that I actually played a soldier on ER, which was pretty cool. So that was really fun. If anybody saw that,
Sure.
And some other things. Some independent film work, some TV work, some commercial work, some print work. Believe it or not, as well. So quite a few different things over the years, music videos as well. And
you recently did a music video, right, in the past year or so?
Yes, for a wonderful country artist, Rachel Womack is her name. Fortunately, I've kept some really good connections in the music industry, part of it as well. So I've been getting steady work as an actor in music videos as well, which is like a nice way to kind of keep a steady income coming in as an artist,
Sure.
So having some good connections in Nashville, I kind of frequent there a lot and get to work in music videos, and also started to branch out and do more producing as far as videos go too, which has been great. So I kind of get to work behind the scenes as well. So that's been fun.
That's awesome. So your screen credits, where else may they have seen you? What other movies or TV shows?
There was a TV show quite a few years ago on a network called the N Network, which was like a sister network essentially to Nickelodeon. And there was a show called Beyond the Break, which was basically like a cool, fun teen surf style show that followed a bunch of surfers living in this house together and stuff like that. And again, had a small role on that, which was cool. But the fun and amazing part about that was, and it was living in Los Angeles at the time, just working full-time as an actor, and it was a great gig to get because it shot in Hawaii. So it was all expenses paid, and actually getting paid to go to Hawaii to do some work. Couldn't have found a better location to go to play as an actor and work, and got to do amazing things. Like I worked with a lot of stunt guys out there and surf coordinators and watermen, because we actually had to do a little bit of surfing for the show and for the commercials and stuff. So I got to actually surf the North Shore in Hawaii too.
Can you still get up on a board?
I can. I actually, having grown up in New Jersey, I grew up surfing the Jersey Shore, which is not quite the same thing as the North Shore. But
1-footers to maybe 12-footers?
Yeah, well, exactly. So it was a completely different story getting out there. But having had some experience, that was actually, even having that on my resume, did help me kind of get that job. And when I went in for the audition, they look at you seriously and ask, can you really surf? Can you actually pull this off? Or are you just saying that? Is it on your resume? No, it's like I grew up surfing, so I can actually do this. So it was great. That was, it was a huge bonus.
Very cool.
Yeah.
So what brought you into acting? How did you get into it?
I'd say from a very young age, I fell in love with it. I grew up watching all different kinds of movies with my mom and my dad and my sister. It was just myself and my sister, just the two of us kids, and then my parents. And all growing up, that was something that we always did. I swear it was almost every weekend we would go to the movies as a family. And I think now, as a man, I look back at that and I think that developmentally that probably played into it a lot. We had such good times doing it. We would then go out to dinner and talk about the movies and stuff after, and who we liked in it and what the actor did and how cool that was, or, whatever. So I think living that way and kind of doing that with my family, probably had a huge influence on the idea of falling in love with movies. And then when I was I think I was a junior or a senior in high school, I think I was like ending my junior year, the M. Night Shyamalan film Unbreakable was being shot in Philadelphia.
I remember that.
And long story short, I had a bunch of different type of kids that I was friends with in high school. I was thankfully I was one of those guys that got along with all different groups. I never did any plays or any acting in high school, but I was friends with a lot of people that did, and a lot of those guys were going over for like an open call, and they were like, we're gonna take the train over, we're gonna make a fun day of it. Do you want to come do it? And I was like, sure. These were not even necessarily guys that I always hung out with outside of school, but something inside of me, the guy who loved movies, was like, I gotta go check this out. So I did, and then when I did that, we waited in line for about 3 hours outside in the rain to get in and try to like see a casting director.
You're a kid, you didn't care.
We didn't care. We were having the time of our life, exactly. And so we get in, we're all disheveled looking, soaking wet from, being in the rain the whole time, whatever. And we're kids, literally, teenager to a certain extent. And at the same time that they had this open call, they were casting for a commercial, and they needed somebody that could skateboard, which is also something that I've done and still do. And as the casting director was walking by, literally, like, in my mind, still like hundreds of people, he walks by and literally picked me kind of out of the line. He said, would you mind coming in? We're having an audition next door, too, for this commercial, and I think you have a good look, and can you skateboard? Or could you at least fake it? And I said, yes, absolutely. Long story short, I went over, I met that casting director, went in and did a good audition, didn't get the commercial, but then I got offered an internship at that casting office. And so I started literally answering phones and opening the mail and, doing all that kind of stuff as I was in high school still. I did that my senior year. And at that point, the longer you intern there, you could acquire credits to start taking classes. So I started taking acting class at that point, and kind of just fell in love with it. And kind of knew that was what I thought I really wanted to do. But I knew it wasn't necessarily going to be the easiest road, but I knew that was kind of for me at that point. So I have to thank those guys that invited me to the open call.
That's awesome. Listen, we're going to take a break, but when we come back, we're going to talk about the road after that, what you went through, the work that you had to put in, the roadblocks, and give some inspiring words for how aspiring actors cannot have to go through some of the things that you went through.
Absolutely.
This is the Adam Malamut Show. Real people, real perspectives, real opinion on Talk Radio 1210 WPHT. Back in a moment.
The Adam Malamut Show. Real people, real perspectives, real opinion.
Thanks for tuning in on a Sunday night here on Talk Radio 1210 WPHT. This is the Adam Malamut Show. Adam?
David, that's an awesome story. And, it's interesting. There's so many roadblocks that you probably hit that people don't realize, but some of them could probably be avoided. Some of them are just going to be natural for the fact that a lot of people want to do what you have done and continue to do, so there's going to be a lot of competition. Talk a little bit about the roadblocks that you hit and what people could expect and how they might overcome it.
Probably some of the traditional stereotypical ones, I would say, honestly, even for an actor, but there's a reason that they're stereotypical, because they're somewhat true. The idea of pursuing an acting career is tough in the sense that everybody knows that there is literally a lot of rejection. You're going out a lot, hopefully, and, trying to get the work, and if it doesn't always happen, it's very easy to look at yourself and constantly think, why not, or what did I not do right, or what's not okay about me that I didn't get that part. When at the end of the day, it like anything else in life, nothing works that way. I mean, you got to remember when you go in, and it took me a long time to figure that out, to go into a casting office, that there's, anywhere from 1, 2, or maybe 16 people sitting across from you. Sometimes there's a room full of producers. If it's a big job, like when we were talking about the ER one, I had to audition for a whole room full of people. It can be very intimidating, but you have to remember that they're there literally doing their job too, and they want to like you. They want to find the person. They want it to work. They don't want to sit there all day waiting for it. They're hoping that that person's walking through the door. So if you don't psych yourself out and kind of mentally take yourself out of the game, and you just go in and you just kind of give it your all without sounding too cheesy about that, or give it 100% and just get out of your own way, I find that that's when, every time I did that was when I booked the job. If I was too in my head and too worried about the little nuances of certain things, even the way you deliver it, sometimes it's about how you walk into that room to start.
Well, it's all mindset, right? So whether it's acting, it's business, it's sports, youth sports, it's all mindset. And so often I feel like we are our biggest impediment to success. What you just said about the producers, the people for casting want to like you. Mm-hmm. Of course they do. That makes their job easier.
Right.
So the conventional thought, I think, is, oh my God, I can't do this. And so many people go in there with the sense of, they're not going to like me. I don't have a chance. Well, right there, you've already lost.
Right. Yeah, you kind of take yourself out of it by doing that already. And then that energy block is there, but before you even start to give whatever performance you might have tried to prepare,
So what's the greatest gift you've gotten from acting?
It feels to me, when I'm like blessed enough and lucky enough to get to work that way, it feels to me like I'm doing exactly what I'm supposed to be doing. I think that's something that we all strive for or look for or hope for, or even walk around trying to think. And a lot of people have jobs that they don't necessarily get to feel that way every day. And that would probably be the greatest gift, is that when I'm getting to do it, that makes me feel so connected and like to the source of like what I'm supposed to be here for, that I believe that makes everything else in my life better. It makes me a better fitness coach. That makes me a better dad when I go home at the end of that workday, or if I go to Nashville for a couple days and do some long work out there and it's really hard but it's great and you dig in and you love it and you're doing what you think you're supposed to do. When I come back, I'm a better dad, I'm a better person, a better son. It makes you better at everything.
And it's not work at that point.
No,
it's passion.
It's passion, exactly. Yeah, and you don't even feel like you're working, which is why it can be a 16 or 20-hour day, and you'd be like, okay, that's nothing. Like, let's go again, wake up and go tomorrow,
So I have a coach who I have a very good relationship with, and he talks about the sweet spot where the intersection of passion, purpose, and profit.
Yeah.
It sounds like that's what you hit with acting.
Yeah, I would say that, absolutely, yeah. It feels that way.
So what kind of advice could you give, short form, to an aspiring actor? My daughter would love to become an actress. What would the advice be?
One of the first things I could start with real quick, I'll start with a cool quote that stuck with me that I remember reading a long time ago when I first started. It was from Harrison Ford, and somebody asked him that, like, what was your secret? And he goes, I was the last man standing on the field. I never stopped. I never gave up. And eventually I just got the work. Like, don't stop. Be persistent. Be the last man standing on the field at practice. Be the last one taking swings. Be the one that wants to stay in acting class and run that extra scene. Like, just put in the work and be passionate about it. That's probably the best advice that you could give. And to go back to what we said a second ago, was not the self-doubt thing. Find some way, whatever that is for you, like kind of going internally to not have that self-doubt. And there's a bunch of different ways you could work on that. But if you can figure out a way to enter the room for the audition or the scene or whatever it is without that doubt, and just go with it, trust yourself, you're good.
So we're talking about living your best life. How do you define that? How do you define for somebody what that means?
Again, touching on maybe what we just said, like if you're first of all, if you're blessed enough or lucky enough to have the life or the job that you really want or the career that you really want, that you're able to recognize that and allow that to color the rest of your life. Like we said, it makes me a better dad when I get to do what's in my heart as a job. I would say that's striving to live your best life. And even if you're not absolutely there yet, that you give yourself credit while you're looking for that, while you're on the path to that, trying to find it, and don't begrudge whatever other job you may have or career you have at this moment, or whatever else that's not 100% going your way yet. As long as you're trying and striving for that, then that is you literally every day living your best life at that moment.
One of the things we talked about before the show, people look to other people's lives to judge how their life should go. And, I find it to be incredibly frustrating, especially in the, it used to be show and tell, now it's schlep and brag society, right?
Yes, absolutely.
And it's, because, Dave can do this, I should be able to do that. And they impose these unbelievable expectations upon themselves that are unreasonable, not what they really want, but what they think they should have. And, societal norms really shouldn't come into play, because that just means that you're following what everybody else is doing, not being an individual, right?
Right.
So how do you deal with that? How do you talk to folks about that?
Like you said, it definitely is a tough thing this day and age with, Instagram and everything else online especially for the youth. It's hard for all of us, but it's definitely even harder for kids, I think, these days to not compare themselves. But you have to hopefully try to instill, whether it's in your own children or clients that I work with, or, to trust themselves and to just be themselves. And ultimately that's what makes you the best you. There is no other person that's exactly like you. So don't try to be exactly like that other person that you follow online or whatever it is. Just find a way to get healthy and comfortable with being your true self.
Yeah, we need to do more to teach our children that, because there's these body image issues that you see young ladies with. Yep. That are completely fabricated. I say fabricated, not the issues, but they're manufactured by society, and they're really suppressive. So we have to do a better job with that.
Right. Absolutely.
We're going to take a break. When we come back from the next break, I want to talk to you about what keeps you ticking, what keeps you motivated, and what drives you, and then how you in turn transfer that energy to your clients.
Okay.
As we go to the commercial break here on Talk Radio 1210 WPHT, this reminder: if you have a phone, you have a radio. If you have a radio, you have the Adam Malamut Show. Simply download radio.com on the app, search the Adam Malamut Show, and you'll hear the entire broadcast of tonight's broadcast and the full library of shows that are now starting to not collect dust, as they are starting to gain traction out in that terrestrial and non-terrestrial world. So well done, and a nice job by Adam Malamut. We'll get to a commercial break. Back in a moment.
From the Malamut and Associates Law Studios, this is the Adam Malamut Show.
And back here on Talk Radio 1210 WPHT, special guest of Adam Malamut tonight, South Jersey's own David Duzenski, joining us, actor, certified fitness coach, and just an all-around athlete, would you say? How would you describe him?
I will tell you that this guy, and I'm going to make him blush, is absolutely an all-around athlete. So he's the only person you'll see that can set up to coach a travel baseball team for 7-year-olds. And while he's doing that, he's cutting through the dugout, sees a bar above his head, and stops and does, 50 chin-ups.
Okay.
So I might be embellishing. It might have been 40 chin-ups. But, look, what he does every single day is a lot of dedication to his well-being, and his health. So with that in mind, we hear people talk about how you stay motivated. And one of the things that drives me crazy, and the people in my house will tell you, nobody's allowed to say that they're having a bad day. It's usually a bad 2, 3, 5, 10 minutes that they milk all day. But that ability to stay positive and stay motivated is something that you really have to work hard at. How do you do it?
Well, as soon as you say that, 2 things come to mind. First of all, the first thing I think of when I really do it is it's not. Over the years, I've learned to think of it as not a vanity thing. Like, don't think of just what you want your body to look like, and that's the reason to exercise or work out every day. Find a different reason that's way more motivating than that. What it is for me, especially these last few years, is the example I want to set for my son. I just want him to see Dad do all these cool things. I really do. I want him to see me be fit and healthy and strong. I want him to see me not necessarily struggle with things that maybe a lot of people struggle with. And not only that, maybe actually like set an example, like going and doing a long race or a long run or something that's neat like that. He's my number one motivation, literally, to try to teach him by doing. Because I think no matter what we say, we all know kids learn the most by like what we do. That's by watching us, So that's the first thing that, like, even on the days that I don't feel like getting out of bed early to go run or exercise or do something, that's one of the things I count on. And then just my general health. I do really care about it and want to be healthy from the inside out. And when you approach it that way, and you think literally about your heart, your lungs, not just body fat composition or all those other things that we typically think about, but like exercising to take care of the inside first, then the outside actually all starts to take shape the way you want it to anyway. So those are my number one kind of motivators, I think, if that makes sense.
So we're talking about, excuse me, your motivators, and we're talking about fitness and, the 300 chin-ups you did walking into the office, right before you walked into the studio. And, fitness is more than just the chin-ups, though, right?
Right.
So what is fitness?
To me, fitness is really some form of movement every day. It does not have to be perfect. It doesn't have to be the latest, greatest workout. You don't need to belong to a super fancy gym that's it's super expensive or has the latest, greatest equipment or classes. It can literally just be you kind of making yourself do something to move each day. It can literally be as simple as taking a walk or taking the dog for a walk and gardening that day, making sure that you do something that requires you to physically move, break a little sweat, and be functional and move a little each day. It's very easy for all of us to not do that. We sit in the car, we sit at work, we sit most of the day. So finding some way to make yourself move. But fitness isn't just the physicality of it, believe it or not. I think it's a whole connection of the mind, body, and soul, if you will. Your mental health has everything to do with your physical health. So if you're moving and you're taking care of yourself and you're exercising, you are literally, I think, taking care of your emotional well-being as well. I mean, physically, your brain, literally the cells and everything, you're taking care of that in a better way. But our emotions are completely tied to that. And if you're healthier physically, I truly believe that you're healthier mentally as well. And I think that that's a big part of what fitness should be. That's why I say it doesn't have to be this perfect plan every day. Sometimes it's just moving that day in some capacity, and you will literally feel better, and you've taken better care of yourself that way.
How did you get into the fitness field?
Just like the TV film part of it, growing up, it was something I was always interested in. I've been an athlete my entire life. I played every sport you literally could possibly think of growing up. If it was available, I begged my parents to play it, and they supported me all the way through it and signed me up for everything. So I was always a physical person, and I was always an athlete. And then in high school, I started to focus a little bit more on football. And then in doing that, fortunately, our high school had two great coaches, essentially, that worked there in the weight room. One was a bodybuilder, literally, and the other one was a power and strength lifting guy, like a powerlifting guy. So I had literally the opposite ends of the spectrum as to what fitness could be. And they took care of us. They shepherded us. They taught us about strength and conditioning. And that was where I first looked at someone and thought, well, that's a cool job. Literally they're working with us, and they're working with kids and athletes, and they're teaching them about their bodies and how to be healthy. And that was when it first kind of started. And literally even then, it was the same time I was starting to take those acting classes. So I've been completely intertwined and interested in both things starting from around the same time. My parents would tell you, and it's a running joke with us, I had weights and like a weight bench, old crappy stuff down in the basement when I was like a kid, literally like 12 years old. I was that kid that like watched Rocky and then like wanted to be Rocky. So I started doing that stuff really young, and then, legitimized myself more with it as I got older, obviously, and, turned it into my part of my career, my business. So
tell me a little bit about your business.
So I have my own fitness business, and I work actually a lot with a family business with my mom. She started her own company. She's licensed clinical social worker, and she has her own mental health company. And anyway, so I work with her in a capacity, and I also do some of my own stuff. So I kind of have two sides of the fitness business. And what's really neat about it is, at this point, I've done everything from just work at other gyms. I've owned my own gym in Cherry Hill at one point. I've trained professional athletes, collegiate athletes. And in the last few years, it's really segued, which is really where my heart is working with kids. And that was the part where I said, through my mom's company, we do state-funded fitness programs with kids, essentially. Kids that are deemed, behavior problems, or maybe asked to leave school, or maybe getting put on medicine to help deal with their issues, and we use fitness, nutrition, sleep hygiene, proper motivation, and general health and wellness lifestyle coaching as an intervention with these kids, instead of them just being put on medicine or just going and having like a therapist or a counselor work with them. And we started doing this about maybe like 8 years ago, and we were one of the first mental health companies in the state of New Jersey just to offer like physical fitness as part of the intervention, as like health and wellness. So we were really proud of that. You know, we've been doing this for a while now, and that program's been great for us. So that's a big part of what I do, is work with these kids. You know, I have a couple different teams that I have now. You know, I work with them in home, and we do stuff, or we go to my gym and we do stuff there. One of the other aspects of the fitness that I do is it's corporate fitness. I actually go around to different companies and different businesses, and the employer pays me to come in and take care of his employees, essentially. Healthcare costs go down, etc. It's a kind of win-win for everybody. And that's been a really nice piece of the business that I've been able to develop. So those two components of the fitness are very different than what I think a lot of people say when you say, oh, you're a fitness coach, or oh, he must be a trainer or work in a gym. And that's not really at all what I do. It's very different than that at this point, which is great.
You have a very interesting other piece. So you talked about two pieces to what you do.
Yes.
You have another piece. You have an app.
Yes. Tell
us about the app.
Part of that was really cool. This it's not necessarily my app. I was privileged to work with Heidi Hamels, who's awesome. She was on, an episode or a couple episodes there of Survivor a couple years ago, and she's a star in her own right, and is also married to Cole Hamels, our ex-Phillies
right.
pitcher, man. So who we miss.
Yeah, sorely right now.
I know, exactly. But anyway, long story short, through some of the other work that I was doing as an actor was actually how I met her. And then when I was doing that, she had said she was starting this fitness app, that she was going to be looking for somebody to come in and maybe help develop some programming and shoot some videos and different things like that with her. And I was super happy to say yes and be working on that with her in this last year. And that's supposed to be coming out in 2020, in the next year or so.
It was probably because she saw you doing chin-ups on a set somewhere.
Well, I did actually meet her on set. She also owns her own record label, which is amazing. She's a pretty amazing woman. She owns a couple different companies. I met her on set because I was acting in a music video in Nashville, and she was there because it was her artist that she was representing. And we just started talking on set that day. And one thing, she's like, oh my gosh, you have this whole other side to what you do. This is perfect. You're a fitness guy. It's the right look. It's the whole thing. And then we're off and running since like last year. So that's been a really cool thing too. And it was neat because both worlds were merging, with the idea of fitness and acting kind of.
So, what I think that our listeners, and I can tell you I find to be so admirable, is the passion you have for all the things that you're doing. And when we talk about it, I'm going to keep harping on it, living your best life. This is what it's about. It's about having those things that you're passionate about, having those things that you can create enjoyment every single day, earn the ability to take care of your family, and at the same time share your legacy with your son and show him through leadership, through doing it yourself, what he can achieve. I think that that's amazing. So when we come back, I want to talk more about you training the children and what you've gotten out of that. But one quick question. Mm-hmm. Were you able to get Cole Hamels to come back to the film?
No, in all this time that I've been working with Heidi on this app, I have not met him yet. So I haven't been able to get a bug in his ear yet. But it would be nice if we could get him back. Wouldn't it?
It sure would. When we come back, we're going to talk about kids and how you train them.
Final segment of the Adam Malamut Show here on Talk Radio 1210 WPHT after this break.
You ain't fighting. I told you, you're done.
That's all I have right now.
All you have? Some basement boxing league.
Gone like the night.
So, Dave, when we took a break, we were talking about training, and I told you I wanted to come back and speak about training kids. It's got to be challenging. You have kids who sometimes don't understand the reason that you're trying to motivate them, which makes it more challenging to motivate them. How do you do it with these kids?
I find that it sounds cliche, I guess, a little bit, but I find that I just try to be like their friend first. I try to literally talk to them and be vulnerable myself. I share stories about my own past, about working out and different struggles I've had and different things, different people in my family that have. But I try to open that door first and let them know that I'm really there and that I really care. I'm not somebody else that's just in their life that's going to kind of be passing through. So I try to build that rapport. And then the other thing that I do all the time is that I do everything with them. So whatever I ask them to do, I'm literally doing it with them the entire time. And I think that makes it, that just lends itself, literally lead by example, get in the trenches with them, not just kind of bark orders or tell them this or that. I share with them my own experiences about my own races I may do or fitness things that I do. And like I let them know that I'm living this life too, and that it is, an option in life to live that way and to have a healthy lifestyle, essentially. So I find that that's the best way to get them to really open up and maybe actually try to start doing the work. And then it actually gets fun, because if they put their guard down, for lack of a better term, and we start doing the stuff that that I know to do with them, they actually do enjoy it. And literally there's the science behind like the endorphins that are released, and they actually start to feel good when they move their body and exercise. And it's just great. It's really great.
How do you deal with getting the kids to be able to stick with your program once they go home? Because there's got to be a big disconnect. Look, and in the interest of full disclosure, I have a huge interest in helping at-risk youth. Mm-hmm. I chaired the board of the Boys and Girls Club of Camden County for many years. I served as a board member, and I still have a great interest in that organization. One of the things that I found is all the work that we do with the young people at the Boys and Girls Club, unfortunately, some of it gets left at the club when they walk out the doors. And with health and wellness, I imagine that's a challenge for you as well.
It is, absolutely. One of the things that I try to do, like an actual hands-on tip, is that each time I start with a new teen or kid, I get them like a health and fitness journal, which almost sounds funny this day and age, because every kid's probably almost has a phone and an app that they could do it themselves, but there's something to tangibly writing something down and actually recording stuff. And so I have these cool little journals that each guy or girl gets, and then I talk about what they should do on the days that they're not with me. And so it's more about like right away kind of creating a healthy lifestyle, not just did they get that perfect workout in that day, but like getting them to understand what just a healthy lifestyle is. And literally, like I said earlier, that might just mean walking the dog and having a catch with the younger brother that day. But as long as you got outside and did those two things, that's a healthy lifestyle versus sitting on the couch and playing video games all day or whatever it might be,
So I know that you've got a number of success stories, mm-hmm. and I know that with the kids, and I know your practice is focused on more than just the young people, but we're talking about living your best life, and I'm a firm believer that you've got to start teaching the kids that kind of mindset at a young age. So tell us one great success story you had with one of the young people that you've helped.
Okay.
Without naming names.
Exactly. I was going to say, without naming names or going into grave detail, it was a young boy who had definitely had tough enough family life and was, living in an adoptive type situation. And those people were very good to him, were amazing, his adoptive family. But he had kind of been through it a lot already. And everybody was it seemed like everybody kind of had maybe almost tossed their hands up with this kid and just thought, I don't know, this may not work. And almost hate to say it, but was he a lost cause kind of thing? And that seemed to be the general consensus once I first met him. And we did the whole, 180, 360 on that. And we turned everything around. He really was compliant with the idea of exercise and got into it, started doing things on his own all the time. I gave him, my cell phone number with the permission of the family and the parents so we could communicate, and I could be a more hands-on coach with him, because that way he could communicate with me on other days that we weren't together still or training that day, and he would regularly update me. And it just was one of those things where you could see, because I believed in him. I think that was my thing, is that I really believed that he could change when maybe a lot of people had thought maybe he couldn't at this point, and he really did. And he turned his whole attitude around in school, and aside from losing weight, getting healthier, being more functional, wanting to play sports, it was literally a whole attitude change. And it was across the board that mom, dad, everybody in his life was commenting on that. And I say this, in a good way, without patting myself on the back. I know I was a huge part of that. And all those people told me that. They're like, this wasn't working until you kind of came on board. And I immediately know that it also is the physicality of what he was doing. He started moving, and we do feel better, literally, in our mind and in our heart when we do that. We're built to move. And so then we just started building on that. And that was a really positive thing. And that was one of the earlier cases that I had when I first started doing this. And that kind of was one of the things that pushed me in the direction. I was like, you know what, I actually like doing this more than maybe even training a professional athlete, which I've had the privilege of doing, literally. And it was awesome to do that. But I like doing this,
So that's success. That, my friend, is success. And too often people get held up on, defining success by how many cars they have, or if they have a boat or a shore home, or how much money they have in the bank. But I think that if we were to sum up this show and we were to sum up our message today, success is really living your best life, not living David Duzenski's best life or Adam Malamut's best life or Joe Krause's best life. It's living your best life, and it's finding what you want for that passion, the purpose, and the profit will then come. And I can't think of any better way to illustrate that than talking about your career, where you started off acting, how you got into it, how you persevered, how you never gave up, how you fought through the roadblocks, transitioning from that into taking care of your own body, and continuing to use that to motivate you as a father, as a businessman. So, congratulations to you. It sounds like you've got it nailed. And I know that there is going to be nothing but success in your future. I know you well enough to know that you won't accept anything but that. And your help that you give to others is very admirable. So thank you. Thank you for coming on the show today.
Yeah, well, thank you very much. Thank you for having me on the show. I really appreciate it. Thank you for the opportunity to be here. And, just congratulations to you, too, for doing the show. I think that you're a embodiment of doing the same thing, sir. Never stopping, never kind of stopping going for your dreams and doing something new and branching out and trying different things. And I think that's what it's all about. So I couldn't have been happier to come and talk with you today. Thank you very much.
Well, we have some more work to do together. So thank you. And
okay.
We've got more ahead of us.
Absolutely, sir. Thanks.
Our special guest, or Adam's special guest on the show tonight, David Duzenski, actor, certified fitness coach, and a really special human being. Well done by you, and a nice job by Adam Malamut. That's going to do it for the Adam Malamut Show on this Sunday here on Talk Radio 1210 WPHT. On behalf of David, on behalf of Adam, and on behalf of all of our listeners, I'm Joe Krause. See you next time, everybody.
This program is a paid commercial announcement and in no way represents the views of WPHT or its management.